everybody. Welcome to the Ryan D. Leaf Show, the RDL show here on a Wednesday. We're going to jump right into it because your faithful host of this show is checking off the bucket list items when you turn 45. I have a colonoscopy here in an hour and 15 minutes, boys. So if I happen to just run off during the show, everybody who has ever gone through this experience probably knows what I'm doing. It's the kind of the feeling that I think Gonzaga felt Monday night, as did I. It was never a game. The boys won $100 each for taking the field. I ponied it up pretty quickly. I think I called the game with about 8 minutes or 10 minutes to go in the game that this one was over, and it was a dominating performance by the Baylor Bears. Coach Drew had them ready to roll. I couldn't believe how physical and how aggressive they were defensively from the start. I mean, it rattled Gonzaga to the point where they could not dribble the ball. Jalen Suggs getting 2 fouls early on in the game was harmful, but they were just completely outperformed on Monday night in the biggest game of the year for them.
I mean, they held Gonzaga to 1 3-pointer in the first half. The second three for Gonzaga came with like 17 minutes left in the second half, which shows that it wasn't just their interior defense, which Baylor was touted on coming into this game, but it was their perimeter defense. Like you said, they're playing that 3-2 zone, forcing the ball inside, and they were just bigger and more athletic than Gonzaga. They also kept the pace of play high and kept Gonzaga off balance. And I don't know. I know that it was a 10-point lead at halftime. It felt like Baylor was in control the entire way.
It felt like it was 30 points at halftime at 10. You know,
they dominated from start to finish. I don't think there's no team in the NCAA that could have beaten Baylor the way that they played.
No. Baylor was just by far the toughest team Gonzaga had seen all season. And it wasn't even close. The bigs matched up with Timmy so well and prevented him from dominating. So it was just a great effort by the Baylor Bears. I also want to say that
Timmy's a great college player, but that's all he is. Like,
I agree completely.
He's a hype man with a mustache. Like, he's the enforcer of the team, but he's undersized for his position. He plays bigger than he actually is, and we saw it. He went up against grown men in the national championship, and he got worked.
Well, also defensively, he got exposed because as their 5, they kind of just switched on. They switched everything. So every time a Baylor guard had the matchup with Timmy, they attacked and got an easy layup every single time. So that also shows that he was the defensive liability on the court as well.
A big part of that, too, is Baylor has the rare luxury of having 3 quality centers as well. So if anybody got in foul trouble or whatever, they were swapping them out, keeping them fresh. And you're right. I mean, controlling Timmy. And we had said on Monday before the game on the show that the difference was going to be either Gonzaga gets out offensively and Baylor can't keep up, or Baylor's defense is going to be the difference and shut them down. Charlie called out the guard play, and we were mentioning it defensively, and Baylor just absolutely dominant. 9-0 to begin. I think it was 11-1, then it was 29-10, dominant throughout.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they had no answer for what Baylor brought to the table. And, you know, what makes Timmy so good and why he's a great college player, being undersized, and is because of his footwork. Plain and simple.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, footwork can only take you so far when you got the length of the Baylor Bears just extending and extending and extending. You know, he still looked very good when he got the ball inside and made them look foolish at times. Sky, great comparison. That's the name I was looking for. Tyler Hansborough from UNC. You know,
Hansborough could shoot though. It's like Hansborough inside, but Hansborough had a shot.
Yeah, so does Timmy. Timmy can throw it up from everywhere.
No, we cannot. I disagree completely.
I know you do. He did it all year.
He did not do it all year. He made layups all year. Jonathan and I are agreeing for once on something.
Look at go back and watch the UCLA game. He scored from every position on the court.
UCLA is one game in an entire year.
It's a pretty good game against a pretty good defense.
Okay, that's like saying that UCLA was dominant the entire year because of how they played in that one game against Gonzaga.
They were dominant all year, pretty dominant all year. They would have won the Pac-12 if they won the last 3 games.
That's not all year. There's 30+ games. You're talking about a tenth of what happened this season.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. What did you just say? They were winning the Pac-12 until the last 3 games of the season.
They were playing well. I don't think that they weren't dominating.
Yeah, I think there's a difference in playing well and dominating. Like Gonzaga and
they
Baylor were
if they
dominating.
The Pac-12, I would agree with you, but they lost bad games too. I can tell.
I still don't understand your point.
My point is that you can't, like, I don't think that Drew Timme shot 65% from the field this season, but 58% of that's from inside the paint. Like, he's not a stretch. He is a true big man who can space the floor pretty well for an undersized 4. Basically.
Especially, and the NBA is a shooter's league now. And if
we're not talking about the NBA, guys. We're talking about college basketball.
No, I'm not talking about the NBA.
Well, Charlie just referenced it. I don't understand what
you're
referencing.
That's what we were saying.
I disagree with your point that Timme is like a utility player. Timme is a big body down low who can move his feet, but against bigger guys who just stand up like this, like we saw with Baylor, he's basically immobile.
So Baylor was the only team this year that had that.
I mean, if they went against Iowa and they put Luke Garza on him, I don't think he would have been that effective. I just don't think that they played teams with a honestly, Jaime Jaquez was a great matchup for him. Jaquez was a very similar playing style to Drew Timme when they played against UCLA. So other than that, like, they just haven't played teams who have had a 4 who could guard him. And a lot of teams also play zone. A lot of teams play zone.
You know the Garza Timme matchup already happened this year, right?
Yeah, and didn't Iowa lost, didn't they?
Iowa lost by like 15 or 20 points. Gonzaga abused them. I mean, Garza's defense is
okay. It's okay. You know, it's Christian Laettner-esque too, right? Great college basketball player. To your point, probably not as good a shooter as Christian Laettner. He's a great college basketball player. This is where it ends for him because of his footwork.
Yep.
Agreed.
He filled it up all year long for that team, though. He was their guy. You know, a team that went 30-0 up until they got beat by a better team finally. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Now, can Gonzaga ever win a national championship, or will they always run into a better team because of the lack of competition they play during the year?
I mean, we talked about this on Monday. I do think they can win it. It's going to be interesting though, because until they hit the tournament, we talked about it on Monday. Until they hit the tournament, they're not playing adequate competition for the most part. So once they get into the tournament, they start playing better competition. Then getting into the Elite Eight, the Final Four, whatever, you're playing literally the best teams in the country. And obviously, they got all the way to the finish line. But we saw, look, Baylor didn't just have their best night of the season. They had been playing similarly all season long. And I had mentioned also that their 2 losses came during a stretch of COVID situation. So Baylor could have also been undefeated, which it wouldn't have been as Gonzaga dominant conversation if Baylor had come in undefeated as well. And I think their 2 losses were a bit false when they had happened. So sure they could, but I do think it's going to be tough.
What they need bench. They need big boys off the bench, and they don't have that, right? Like, JP makes a really good point here. The starting lineup can match up with the biggest and the baddest for the most part, because then you have a guy in Jalen Suggs who's basically just Jason Kidd in college, minus the consistent 3-point shots. That Jalen Suggs shot great in the tournament. Regular season was not a great 3-point shooter, and that's a big knock for him from NBA scouts. But they need guys off the bench who can come in and be big and play big. Not necessarily just guards that can shoot, because that's mostly what they have. And that's been the biggest problem for Gonzaga over the last 4, 5, 6 seasons, is the depth just isn't there down low.
Well, also, this was the most talented Mark Few Gonzaga team ever, dominating the whole season. And still, there was another team that was better than them. So I want to say that Gonzaga will win a championship one day, but I just think there's always going to be that other team that is playing dominant ball as well, that when Gonzaga and them go head to head, it'll just be a mismatch.
Now, that being said, this run to the championship, and yes, they lost, but they were dominant up until that game, will obviously help with recruiting long term, right? I mean, this is going to help further cement Gonzaga.
Have a problem with recruiting though, like, so Andrew.
Further though, I mean, like they could potentially, steal some Pac-12.
But it's going to help Baylor. It's going to help UCLA.
Schools.
It's going to help you. It's going to help all the teams that made a run in March Madness.
Yeah, but I think Gonzaga would benefit the most from the help that it could get them because of where they're at currently.
But the problem is that they're losing the biggest piece in Jalen Suggs.
They're losing Suggs and Kispert.
Kispert, who was the West Coast Conference Player of the Year.
I was going to say he was kind of the underrated,
But
Gonzaga's always going to be able to recruit well because they're always going to get to the tournament, and all these guys want to be on the national stage to show what they can do to get to the next level. That's why they're always going to recruit well. It doesn't matter if they're in the Pac-12 or if they're in the West Coast Conference or if they're in the Sun Belt. Like they're going to recruit the same because that's how the program is run. I actually think it's more beneficial for them to be in the West Coast Conference for recruiting because it gives these players the stats are so inflated that when you get to the tournament and then you actually go and play good basketball for 6-7 straight games and win a national championship or get to the national championship, like that's when NBA scouts are like, okay, like Jaime Jaquez, you are now a potential first-round pick because of what you did at UCLA. Same with Gonzaga, and that's the attraction of Gonzaga every year.
I think Gonzaga, like, recruiting is super important, but they also land a ton of transfers. Like Kyle Wiltshire from Kentucky a couple years back dominated for Gonzaga. They got Nigel Williams-Goss, took them to a national championship, and now they're the leaders to land 5-star center from North Carolina, Walker Kessler. So, that's just a huge part of the game right now that'll help Gonzaga in the long run.
Is Gonzaga going to be the favorite coming in next year?
No.
Yeah.
No. They will not be.
There's too much turnover in the like Sean Farnham talked to us about. The portal is loaded.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what turnover is going to look like for a while right now, but they're going to be good. I mean, they're going to win the conference. We'll see what their non-conference looks like at the beginning of the season and how well they play. It's hard to argue that the two best teams faced off against each other for the national championship on Monday night, and the one playing better basketball right now, the Baylor Bears won, and I'm glad that they did. I would have liked to seen a more competitive, but a lot of people are talking about the disappointment in Gonzaga rather than the utter dominance of Baylor and how well they played. I mean, they just hit buckets. They rained from three. They got to the glass all night long. The defense was amazing. Every time there was a bit of a run by Gonzaga, Coach Drew took a timeout, put a kibosh on that, and they answered back quickly and dominantly. And then the question that we started out on this: can Gonzaga ever win a title in the West Coast Conference? My fear is that the level of competition after they play a difficult non-conference and they build up all these quad one type of wins and things like that, they go and never play a quad one type of game the rest of the year. Is it ever going to fill them with the competitive nature? Well, it clearly did. They got through the tournament. When crunch time came against UCLA in a game, they found a way to win it. Jonathan made a great point on Monday about how that game was going to take a toll on them, and they just looked a speed less than Baylor on, and Baylor dominated against Houston. Didn't have to play a lot of their starters or a lot of their main guys late.
That game was over at halftime.
Yeah. So they were up by 25 points at halftime in that game on Saturday. So a lot of those guys are fresh. These guys had to play overtime, double overtime, and they were a tired bunch, and you could see it from the jump.
Yeah.
Brian, the most dominating stat of the entire game for me is 16 offensive rebounds for Baylor to 5 for Gonzaga. All those second
it happened in the first 3 minutes. They got like 4 or 5 offensive rebounds and got extra shots.
38 to 22 Baylor.
What was the bench differential while you have those stats up? Do they have it?
I'll get to it.
Okay.
No,
I think that's the big deal. That's the big thing for Gonzaga. They have a bunch of guards off the bench. They don't really have anybody big, and that's what they need.
Yeah, Baylor's got Matthew Meyer, who's basically like a 6'9" guard who can shoot, defend, and drive, and he's just such a mismatch.
Bryce Drew is amazing at bringing in athletes that he then turns into basketball players.
Bryce Drew or Scott Drew?
Scott Drew. Bryce Drew's at Valparaiso. Sorry, the brothers.
No, Bryce Drew's at Grand Canyon University, actually.
Wait, when did he move from Valpo?
He went from Valpo to Vanderbilt, got fired from Vanderbilt, and
Jerry Stackhouse.
And
you're right.
Was at Grand Canyon this year and made the tournament.
We just lost our 4 viewers. Oh, you guys.
You're right. We got 2 more. We have 6 now.
All righty. NCAA tourney's over. Congratulations to Bob Saget, man.
The man Bob Saget.
The man Bob
Congratulations.
Saget. The man Bob Saget. for
Took down
winning
the
the
tournament.
RDL bracket buster. Our boy Sky would have finished, I think, second, right, Sky? Just close.
Almost, Bob. I was right behind you, Bob. 30 points. 30 points.
Well, now you got some. Now, what do you want? Bob Saget, man, Bob Saget, whatever. What do you want now? Do you want some Sunfair? Well, if you do, go to sunfair.com. All right. And sign up for your own personalized delivered healthy meals. I haven't been able to eat food since Monday night, people.
Yeah,
so me talking about there's an anger in me right now that is fueling. Thank you for putting up those pictures, because now I understand what I'm doing it for. Though I've lost freaking 12 pounds in the last 48 hours because of colonoscopy prep. So I haven't eaten my Sunfair the last 2 days. I'm going to tomorrow. Don't get me wrong. Go to sunfair.com, fill out all your information, pick Carl Farrow as your sales representative, pick the RDL show as how you heard about it. You'll get 10% off your first order, your food delivered right to your doorstep, fresh, cooked food every morning. It's delicious. I know what my Thursday meals are. My Thursday meal is a turkey bacon burger for lunch, and then like these apple fritter bites for snacks, and then dinner, guys, is a 8-ounce filet mignon with blue cheese on it. So I'm excited for tomorrow, because
for your colonoscopy are the Sunfair meals that you're waiting for tomorrow.
Hopefully they get me through it. All I know is that I'm going to show up, and then you get knocked out, and then you get you get anally probed, and then you move on. That's just the way the world we're living in. I'm not looking forward to it. I'm trying to think of what I should watch on TV tonight when I get home, and I'm just going to be laying around in bed for.
Should we cut that for our post-prod playback? And Ryan Leaf on the RDL show describes how
anally probed.
Yeah, he describes how he discusses in depth how a colonoscopy goes down.
Words.
I don't know how it goes down. I've been told.
Health
but
is
a buddy
wealth,
of mine, Adam Baldwin, who hooks us up with Sweat Taylor, who's looking to be a sponsor of the show. I was talking to him today, and he's up pitching, trying to close out final round of funding for the company. And I said, well, hey, I got to go to work. I got to do prep for the RDL show, and then I got to go get anally probed. And there was just a long wait before his answer back. He's like, I am dying right now. I did not have a response for that, and I don't know who does.
I mean, do you think that when Sunfair was writing up our contract that they had this in mind for the segment for when you plug them? Because that's exactly what just happened. Well,
I can tell you guys this. Everybody who went through this process has told me how excruciating the prep is. Like, you have to drink the fluid and the laxatives, and you spend the day on the toilet. Because I'm eating such clean food, and I have been for the last 6 months, like the excavation of my body was not, this is way too much information, people, but that's what you get on the RDL show. But it wasn't that big a deal the last day and a half,
Proud of you. I'm so happy for you. I'm so happy that your bowel movements have been above and beyond.
It's been great. Sunfair.com, people. You'll take good shits. All right. That's the tagline right there. All right.
Good shits.
Oh my God.
Personalized, delivered, healthy meals that'll give you good shits. That's how we deliver here on the RDL show. Alrighty. So as we were going off the air on Monday, of course, we were in overtime with Sean Farnham, and breaking news around the NFL. Right, the big trade from the New York Jets. Sam Darnold traded to the Carolina Panthers. And I hosted SiriusXM NFL Radio last night, and I've been doing a bunch of radio hits, discussing this trade. And everybody asks, well, who won? Well, one thing is you can't really figure out a winner when you're traded draft picks, because you don't know who's drafted with those draft picks and how they be. You don't really find out who the winner is till late. But if you wanted to take away a winner from this trade, all three: Sam Darnold, New York Jets, Carolina Panthers. I think everybody won through this process. All right. The Jets, they were just in limbo. They have a general manager who's finally kind of trying to put his stamp on this team. He did not draft Sam Darnold. Robert Saleh, a new head coach, is in town. The city wants a rebirth. Sam Darnold is this almost like a lame duck. Do you play him in his fourth year, not pick up his fifth-year option? Is he like Mitchell Trubisky? It's just it had to happen. Okay, it just was a matter of who, when, and where. Carolina gets a 23-year-old, 3-year veteran quarterback in the NFL under Joe Brady. That for me is a huge win for Carolina. And for Sam Darnold, he gets a new place to start over. He gets to get out of the shadow and slime of Adam Gase. I'm going to liken it a lot to what Ryan Tannehill was able to do when he got to Tennessee. I really am. You get out of the clutches of Adam Gase and his, I don't know, I've never seen a guy get more advantages because Peyton Manning said he was a good play caller when everybody knows that Peyton Manning called every play when he was at Denver. Adam Gase just stood by and nodded a little bit as they went on to win another Super Bowl. And he turned that into 2 head coaching jobs where he was subpar, and he ruined good rookie young quarterbacks during the process. Sam Darnold and Ryan Tannehill, who are both going to flourish, I believe, moving forward outside of his clutches. So I think all 3 represented in this trade win. They get to stay. Carolina gets to stay at 8. New York's going to stay at 2 and most likely take a quarterback. That's the question of the day here, boys. Question of the day, who do the Jets draft at number 2 overall? I think the consensus is it's Zach Wilson. I said something on NFL radio last night that don't be surprised, people, if Justin Fields goes number 2 overall, okay? Don't be surprised if that happens. There's a reason why there's not a bunch of hoopla around him right now, just like a lot of hoopla is not around Trevor Lawrence, because we already know what's happened with Trevor. He's going 1. Maybe it's being downplayed and undersold a little bit because the Jets really like Justin Fields. And guess what? I think he would be a fit really well there in New York. We'll see how it plays out. But your guys' thoughts on the trade for Sam Darnold to the Carolina Panthers on Monday?
I like to see what Sam Darnold's going to do in that system. I like the coaching staff there. I think that he's better than Teddy Bridgewater is from just a fundamental quarterback standpoint. He's a pro style. Teddy Bridgewater is more of a dual threat. And I think that it's going to look, that team needs to be able to get the ball to their receivers, and they haven't really been able to do that. And they have some pretty solid guys. Like I love Robbie Anderson. He's blinding fast out of that. What is it? He's in the Wyatt position, right? As a receiver. They have a guy who can throw him the ball now downfield. I love it. And I think for Sam, getting out of New York was the best thing ever. North Carolina is a bit different than growing up in LA and moving to New York, but I think it's going to fit him well.
I agree. I also think that, having a run game, having somebody like Christian McCaffrey by your side to not only run the ball, but also be that dump off extraordinaire back healthy this year, hopefully is tremendously going to help Sam Darnold. He has had a number of names, Le'Veon Bell, Frank Gore in New York, but not, dominant run schemes. We talked about Adam Gase already, not many weapons around him either. And as you mentioned, a new young passing game that showed successful last year with Teddy Bridgewater, who I don't think is a terrible quarterback, but I don't think he's a game changer. And I think Sam Darnold still has the opportunity to do that. Sam here in our chat did mention that he's still younger than Joe Burrow. And he's got a lot of upside. Quick couple numbers here. Since 2016, the Panthers as a franchise have not thrown more than 29 touchdown passes, 21, 22, 28, 17, and 16 as a team over the last 5 years. I think Sam Darnold could throw 25, 30 if he ends up taking this job. And I do expect him to be a upgrade eventually. It's just a big question. What's going to happen with Teddy? We were talking about it before we went on air. What are we going to do with Teddy? And would they actually?
No one's commenting on my little brot's antics here.
He just sent it. He just sent it. Sorry, Sky.
So I took. Sorry to interrupt, Sky, but I took my brother to the Masters a few years back, and it was during the Bernie Sanders campaign, right? And so when Ernie came up, that's what he would yell. He would scream out at the top of his lungs at the Masters, "Everybody, you feel the urn!" And it was the Masters where Ernie Els on hole number 1 saw snakes. Remember when he had snakes in his head and he like 8-putted from 4 feet right there at the first hole? Yeah, we were
perfect transition from Sam Darnold who's seeing ghosts that one game. So I thought that was perfect.
Yeah, that's the little brother. That's a handsome mustache he's got going there.
I was about to say your little bro's got a nice stash going there.
He's the actor, right? That's an actor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's one of his. I think that's one of his headshots he's using. So he's been a loyal watcher and listener of the show, always asking how it's going. I suspect that I don't know what's going to happen with Teddy Two Gloves. That's the question, right? He's guaranteed $10 million. They paid him $63 million, guys.
Yikes!
You forget that contract that he got a year ago. Now he's guaranteed $10 million this year. If they cut him, it's $10 million. If he stays he's a $17 million backup. Sam's going to make. They picked up his fifth-year option. Sam's going to make $975,000 this year. So that will be an interesting conversation in the quarterback room. How much you making, Teddy? Oh, 17. What are you making? Oh, just under $1 million.
Yeah.
And he's the starting quarterback. Now the options about for $23 million. So ultimately 2 years, Sam Darnold, right around $25 million for the 2 years. It's a pretty good deal for the Carolina Panthers, I feel, if they get a franchise quarterback out of the deal.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people kind of mentioning too that this is either an L for Carolina bringing in Sam Darnold over Teddy, or at least a lateral move. And I disagree. Teddy Bridgewater had 3,700 yards last year, 15 touchdowns, 11 picks. Sam Darnold had 9 touchdowns and 11 picks. But again, you think about the team surrounding him, and I just don't see it. And the defense is frankly in the divisions that he's playing as well. Sam Darnold had some injury issues last year as well. I think it's a significant upgrade. We'll see what happens in year one. Obviously, new scheme, new coaches, new players, whatever. That's always a
seem a
crapshoot.
little bit like a Sam Darnold apologist, a little bit. No, yeah.
I don't know about apologists. I've never been a Sam Darnold hater. Honestly, we were talking earlier about this whole Jimmy G 49ers thing, and obviously it's out now, but I've been saying for quite a while that I would have loved for the Niners to bring in Sam Darnold. Frankly, it would have been a lot cheaper than the number 3 pick. And I think he would have either been good behind Jimmy for a year or would have been able to take over in the Shanahan offense. So I like the trade overall, and I think Sam Darnold is going to be fine.
I think on all three ends, like we talked about, it works out for the team. Doesn't matter who the Jets draft, the franchise is cursed. Sanchez goes from back-to-back AFC championships to the butt fumble. See, I said that earlier today. There's a systemic problem in New York because he goes to consecutive AFC championships, and only thing anybody remembers Mark Sanchez about is the damn butt fumble. It's crazy caricature and you got to remember who you draft has got to be able to deal with the New York media, the pressure, the cooker that comes. It's different than any other NFL franchise.
Isn't it crazy, Ryan, that you say that, and it's so true? And yet New York athletics outside of the Yankees is abysmal year to year now. Like, this is a city that was so dominant for so long before my generation. I don't remember when the Knicks were a dominant powerhouse in the NBA. I don't remember when the Jets were fantastic. I mean, I guess it back-to-back apes, but I was like that was like at the beginning of my tenure as an NFL fan, right? Like in the heyday of my fandom and my sports mediaship, I have never seen a New York franchise be successful outside the Yankees, and that's with all of the like what is it about New York right now that makes it such a hard market to win in?
I mean, Jonathan, you're older than me, and I remember 2 giant Super Bowls, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, but they play in New Jersey, so
does the Jets.
Well, they were in the same stadium.
Yeah, I mean, you could wrap in Buffalo last year as well into the New York, if you will. I agree, man. How much of that, Ryan, and you talk about the quarterbacks, obviously, and handling the New York media and whatever, and Eli did such a great job basically by just staying away from it, frankly. How much of that is also, I mean, upstairs, right? That's the head coaching. They have not had consistent coaches forever. I mean, people are not there more than 2 or 3 years, and that's hard for in general, any player on the team, the franchise overall, to have any sort of camaraderie and consistency.
No, it's a problem, and it's going to continue to be a problem. I don't care what quarterback they draft. To be honest with you, I don't. Unfortunately, when you get drafted to certain teams, it's a problem. I love Joe Burrow. I just don't know if the Cincinnati Bengals are ever going to be anything, and he's going to be the Heisman Trophy winning version of Carson Palmer there. I think he's going to be great. He's going to be a great quarterback. They're going to have runs, maybe get to the playoffs, but ultimately, it's Cincinnati, and it's a systemic problem, just like the New York Jets, and it's going to continue to be. Zach Wilson, if he goes there, Justin Fields, they may be able to do a few things, but we're going to be talking about a new head coach, 4 or 5 years from now, and a new quarterback probably 4 or 5 years from now.
Are you more happy going to Jacksonville or New York as a quarterback in this draft?
Neither. Unfortunately, these quarterbacks go to bad football teams. So you got to love what San Francisco did, and moving up. So whoever gets a chance, I bet you Justin Fields in his mind is like, yeah, please let me keep falling. And the 49ers know what they got in me, and I can go there at 3, and it's a different story. Trey Lance, possibly, Mac Jones, of course. It's going to be tough sailing. It's going to be tough sailing for both Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson, the teams that go 1 and 2. I got the question asked to me last night. Here's a good question. Who do the Jets draft at number 2? That's our question of the day. What are the expectations for these teams next year? For Carolina, I thought could be a team with Sam Darnold now that could vie for number 2 spot in the NFC South, with a lot of unknowns in Atlanta and a lot of unknowns in New Orleans. When you look at the Jacksonville Jaguars, I suspect they may be able to cross off a couple wins versus the Houston Texans, because that's such a shit show. And it will be next year. I expect the Houston Texans to be the ones drafting number 1 overall next year. But you got the Indianapolis Colts and you got the Tennessee Titans in that division. And so, Jacksonville's going to be in a tough spot. The Jets going to be in a tough spot. They got to deal with a resurgent New England team, I think. Buffalo, which is going to reign supreme there. And Miami goes 10-6 a year ago with a rookie quarterback flubbing along, So it's going to be tough sledding for both of these franchises with their rookie quarterbacks. They're going to be ready. Urban Meyer's got to be ready for the first time in his life to finish a season under 500, and it could be significantly lower than under 500.
So Ryan, the overall question of the day, once again, who do the Jets draft at number 2? So chime into the comment section to help us out with that. But Ryan, I'll just throw one back at you really quick. Let's talk about the Panthers at number 8. They don't need a quarterback. They have 2 as of now. They just traded for 1. What do the Panthers do at 8 now?
I think what do they need to improve on? What were they bad at last year? Defense.
Lots.
Right? So they need to offensively, they were pretty darn good. They were in football games. They lost games down the stretch.
Yeah.
And
they didn't have Chris McCaffrey most of the season.
And they didn't have McCaffrey, but just it's same thing. The guy that they replaced him with had similar numbers to McCaffrey. So don't pay running backs, people. Don't pay running backs. This team for me is, like I said, I think should vie for the number 2 spot in that division now. Tampa Bay's far and away the best team. They return everybody to that roster. They're going to add some pieces in the draft. They're going to get better. Tom's going to get better. There's going to be more of a relationship built between him and his wide receivers. This team's going to be I can't believe they're not the favorite. Kansas City is still the favorite by a slim margin, but the dominant performance in that Super Bowl should have edged them in that different direction there. So I think they're going to vie for the number 2 spot. We have no idea what Jameis Winston and the New Orleans Saints are going to look like. And we definitely don't know what a new look Arthur Smith run Atlanta Falcons team is going to look like. They have to improve tremendously defensively as well. So that's what I expect from those teams. One of our beloved viewers and followers, subscribers, Rob Berger, tweeted out last night that he got his first order of Athletic Brew. And but apparently, Rob, you didn't use the link, okay? Because RDL Show didn't get credit for that. Not to hold you over the fire or anything. I hope you're enjoying it. AthleticBrew.com, everybody. Non-alcoholic brews from light beer to IPAs, everything. If you don't like the consequences, but love the great taste, go to athleticbrew.com. There we go. Upside Down, right there for Mr. Sky Guasco, drinking and doing a show. Everybody.
Hey, it's almost it's noon somewhere, right?
That's noon where you're at. Yes,
exactly. Count it.
So it's noon pretty much everywhere. Yes, Guy.
Not where I am, but on the West Coast, it's noon.
Perfect.
5 o'clock where Chuck is.
Well, I mean, Chuck, it's way past noon. Okay, I think that's his point. You don't go. You only can drink at noon, but not at like 3 in the afternoon.
We've done a great job on these ad reads today, guys. We went from colonoscopy to now we're talking about drinking at noon on the show.
Day drinking on the show. Athletic Brew, and none of the consequences, right? I'm allergic to it, right? I break out in handcuffs. Brew without compromise. People, shop now. If you order and use the link below, you'll get 10% off your first delivery of 2 6-packs or more. Get on it now. athleticbrew.com. All right, Rob said he's going to get on that. Good for that, buddy. You know, we need to get Charlie Moss paid so he can pay back his dad Randy for whatever. You know.
Dad, I'll pay you back. Don't worry.
Dad, he'll pay you back. He just got $100 Venmo to him, so
I'm sure he's in debt to Indiana University. So
all three of them have $100 just Venmo to them. They're rolling in it right now.
Thank you, Mr. Bossman.
Yeah.
Pays for my gas for my softball game today.
NFL draft, right? 3 quarterbacks probably going. 1, 2, 3. I think it's happened a couple times before. There's a good possibility. Live in Cleveland, right? Good chance 4. And there's a possibility with what the Bengals will do at 5 that we could see 5 quarterbacks go in the first 5 picks. And wouldn't that be absolutely dominating in what the NFL has become? And it's about the quarterback, period. And it is. That realistically can happen. The Atlanta Falcons have to make a decision at number 4 whether or not they want to draft a quarterback to ultimately take over for Matt Ryan. Arthur Smith has been out publicly saying he feels like I feel like that Matt Ryan can play through his contract, which is 2 more years. Is that worth taking a guy at 4? If it's Trey Lance, I think it is. But it's going to be up to the team and the general manager whether or not. And if they are not going to draft a quarterback, I recommend they bundle a trade together and move back where they know they can get a guy that they would have taken at 4, which I assume is a defensive player, the likes of Micah Parsons or an edge rusher or something like that, because they need to improve defensively. Offensively, they have weapons. Matt Ryan still looked great, and I think he's going to be really good in Arthur Smith's offense, like Ryan Tannehill was the last 2 years. Very similar to what Kyle Shanahan's offense looked like with Matt Ryan. People forget, too, the year after Kyle Shanahan left, Steve Sarkisian's offense and Matt Ryan broke the records that he broke the year before with Kyle Shanahan, right? Sarkisian was kind of the scapegoat in all this. We all know that Dan Quinn, a defensive-minded guy, let that defense really fall by the wayside. That's why he's not there anymore. So that's the decision that needs to be made. I think they either take one or they trade out of that and a quarterback's taken at 4. Therefore, you have the Bengals at 5. Do they take the best? They'll get the chance to take the best possible football player at that point. They'll be the first one who's not picking a quarterback. Do they take Kyle Pitts at 5? Do they take Penei Sewell or another offensive lineman? Or do they do what it seemingly feels like the fans all want them to do, is take Jamar Chase, a wide receiver? Or do they know that they can get an offensive lineman to help solidify Joe Burrow's backside and front side a little bit later, and they move back and trade up? And there you go. A 5th quarterback is taken in the first 5 picks.
Crazy.
Who knows?
Why would they take a quarterback? Why? Because
who?
Just in case?
Who?
Bengals.
Yeah, no, they trade out.
They trade out.
You're saying they trade out, and then that team that trades it up gets a quarterback, is what you're saying. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. I misunderstood. I don't get what the point of taking a wide receiver at 5 is if you're not going to be able to protect the quarterback that just shattered his knee in 8 different places to get him the football.
We talked about the liability last year was the offensive line, and it cost them their quarterback second half of the season, and possibly the future, because those ACLs and those kinds of knees injuries are, they're not as problematic as they used to be, but they could be. And if you don't protect them, it's going to happen again. So, you got to take Penei Sewell, I think, at that spot. And they've been talking about it. The fan base had signs in the stadium last year about Sewell, and I didn't know if he was going to be able to make it to the 5th pick for them to do that. So that's where I think they need to go. If they feel they can get Penei, if they back up a couple spots and get a truckload for another team to move into the 5th spot to draft a quarterback, by all means, do it.
They should
have that's the draft.
The Raiders, with the way the Raiders were giving up offensive linemen.
The Raiders aren't going to do that. They just don't.
It's too late. It's too late. But a couple weeks ago, when they had offensive linemen to give.
Well, I don't think they had offensive linemen to give. They just kept shuffling them up to mortal coil. I don't understand that. I don't understand their process at all through this. But the $10 million a year or 10-year contract is
Yeah,
experiments on and rolling.
If the Bengals don't jump on Sewell, he might end up falling, or the Chargers move up too, and they could maybe reunite him with Herbert as well.
All right, so I've been asked a lot of times when I go on these shows to give my rankings of how I would draft the quarterbacks this year, and doing my due diligence and watching film and preparing for this year's draft. This is my list. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward for me. Trevor Lawrence, of course, is far and away the best quarterback in this year's draft, I feel. He's been bred and ready. He was ready for this after he beat Alabama in his freshman year after the national championship. Easily would have been the first pick in the NFL draft that time. I got Justin Fields number 2. I think he's the second best quarterback in this draft. I think his ability to throw the football in that game against Clemson, against really rare defenses that Brent Venables threw at him, was a showcase of what he's able to do. He's athletic. He's got great arm. He'll fit in perfectly with what the NFL offenses are transitioning to. I got Mac Jones at 3, which I think is a good spot. He easily could have been in a position where he could be the best quarterback in this draft. He was the best quarterback in college football last year, by far. Now, he had the great weapons, don't get me wrong. Still had to make the throws. Ton of his passes close to the line of scrimmage. I think the second closest percentage of passes at the line of scrimmage or behind it since Tua a year ago, and we kind of saw how that played out last year. I got Zach Wilson at number 4. I got Davis Mills at number 5. And the reason I have him at number 5 is just because I don't think Trey Lance has enough snaps. Now, hey, Davis Mills doesn't have quite a few snaps either, only 12 starts. But I think the competition level and how he looked in a COVID-shortened season last year down the stretch, I think, gives him the upper hand. I have Trey Lance at 6. I got Kellen Mond at 7. Jamie Newman at 8. Kyle Trask at 9. And then there's kind of a two-way or three-way tie at 10 with Sam Ehlinger, Ian Book, and maybe Felipe Franks. But that's how it all runs together for me in terms of quarterbacks. I like Davis Mills going to New England at number 46. I really do. I think he would be the perfect fit for Josh McDaniels' offense. I don't think he'd get a lot of playing time this year. I think they are going to roll with Cam Newton to see how far they can get him with everybody back, the pieces back. And he's such a great leader. But if Davis Mills gets thrown into the mix and gets some time, I think he showcases really, really well. And I think that would be a steal for the New England Patriots if they were to get him in the middle of the second round like that.
Ryan, when you have your rankings up here, you have, let's just take Trey Lance, for example, at 6 in your rankings of these quarterbacks. If you think about the NFL draft and the quarterback needy teams, would you place them as is on this list, or do certain players have certain teams that would fit them?
Yeah, this is my list. This is my list. I believe it's going to go Trevor, Zach, Mac. To be honest, I shouldn't say that. I have no idea where they're going at 3. I know a quarterback's being drafted, but the more and more I look into it and the more and more I hear from friends close to that organization, one of them is meeting with them today, it could be any of the 3. It could be Justin Fields, Trey Lance, or Mac Jones at 3. I wouldn't be surprised if any of them go at number 3. So it's unknown. We just know that there's going to be quarterbacks taken 1, 2, and 3. We do know that for sure.
Do you think the conversation that we're seeing come around Twitter that Kyle Shanahan wants one guy and John Lynch wants the other, do you think that that's legit? Do you think it's a smokescreen? Do you think it's really contentious, or they already have their pick? Depending on what happens.
I don't know how that gets out. These two have a really good relationship, so they're going to be on the same page. They moved with this trade because they were on the same page. They didn't move with this trade because they were not seeing eye to eye. And then John Lynch pulls the trigger on this and then goes, well, I want this one. Well, no, I want this one. They were seeing eye to eye when this trade was made. Otherwise, it doesn't happen.
Do the Broncos trade up to take a quarterback?
They had a chance at Sam Darnold. They felt like it was, it would have been a drop down from Drew Lock. It really do. I mean, so I think they go into the draft and stay where they're at and grab themselves a defensive playmaker or another wide receiver to help bolster and give Drew Lock another year. I really do. I think give the guy another chance. It's a division that's really tough, with the way the Chargers have improved, and of course the Kansas City Chiefs twice a year. But I think Drew Luck stays there, and this team tries to figure it out with him because if they're not good enough, they're most likely going to be towards the bottom again, and they can figure out a way to go after a quarterback
Sure.
Sam Howell probably is going to be at the top of the list next year. That's a pretty good option if they fall in that direction. So,
and then
we did a little spotlight a few weeks ago on Trevor Lawrence and Mac Jones, and so today I wanted to do one relatively quickly here on Trey Lance. And I think most people, when they talk about development of the quarterback position, you can really look at 3 teams over the last decade or so, and that's USC, Oklahoma, and unbelievably North Dakota State. They produced Carson Wentz and Easton Stick, both draft picks, one and number 2 overall. Ironically enough, no longer with the team that he was drafted by. Easton Stick is backing up Justin Herbert in Los Angeles, but they've been really good. And this young man may be the best of the bunch, right? Unfortunately, he needs more snaps. He hasn't played much at all, right? And we haven't seen him play since really 2019. And saw him play against Central Arkansas last year, where it was kind of an up and down performance. If you want to go back and look at his stats, 68% accuracy, 28 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, everybody. That is unbelievable, because I had a great year in 97, and I threw 11 picks. I mean, the ball gets tipped, something happens. He's just been he's taking care of the football. He's fearless, but not reckless. And that's a great definition of somebody. Some of his cons, the competition level. This game you're looking at right now against Nicholls State. They would have played Oregon last year. He would have gone up against a Power 5 defense. We would have seen what that looks like, how he handled himself. Lack of big game competition bothers some. I'm one of them. It bothers me a little bit. One of the technical things, when he throws to his left, like most quarterbacks, we fall off the mound and the ball gets away from him. That can be corrected very, very easily. Some of his pros, I look at some main things when it comes to quarterback play. Poise, in that he never looks rattled, no matter how big the moment is. And he's played in national championships, and they've dominated the FCS at North Dakota State. When things speed up, he looks great. Decision making, don't always get caught up in the percentage. 68%. I think the litmus test now is more around 70%. Do you get there? Hey, he throws with anticipation, and he's accurate. And at the NFL level, being able to get to the ball, to the wide receiver early, letting them run with the football, that's a difference-making quarterback. It really is. How does he hold up in big moments, right? Is he conservative, having not thrown, any interceptions? He's selective. He's selectively aggressive. He'll let it rip into tight quarters, and he gets to his third read. When you see a running quarterback who has 1,100 yards rushing, you think, okay, he goes through his first read. If it's not there, he takes off and runs. No, he goes through his reads, and if running the football is the last resort, he does it. A lot of his big runs were called runs for him as a player. So my best comp for him is Andrew Luck. His size is a little smaller. He's not going to be as great at his high, but he's extremely mature, leader, big physical. He'll run you over. He'll sit in the pocket and fire it around. He takes care of the football. He's a great leader. And another comp for me is Jalen Hurts. Those are the two I have for them. Fearless, not reckless, not as high a grade as Andrew Luck, but he could definitely get there if he develops. I expect him to go to a team that doesn't ask him to play right away.
Are you worried, Ryan? And you mentioned, there was an opportunity before coronavirus to go against Oregon, Power 5 defense, front 7 with guys all over the field that are going to be at the next level. Trey Lance is kind of small. And I don't mean like his size. I mean his stature. Like his gait is pretty small. And for a guy coming out of the FCS, still D1 football, still against big boys on the defensive side, as a dual threat quarterback who you expect to keep the ball, I'm curious about the toughness, right? Because he hasn't played against the majority of guys that he's going to have to play against in the NFL. And if he breaks out on a zone read for a keeper, if he, a broken play pocket collapses and he's running out around the corner, I'm worried that his size is going to make it difficult for him to take big hits, and it could have.
It's difficult for everybody. I mean, Dak Prescott got pulled down in just a random play outside the pocket where he snapped his leg in half. Right? These guys are amazing. So you just got to figure out a way to not put yourself in harm's way when you do carry the ball and get out there. Because any 32 of the quarterbacks that are out there, if they get out and are moving, they're a liability, because the guys are just so much bigger, faster, and stronger. They'll rip your ass to the ground and break bones. And you'll be stuck on the couch watching football, having to eat bland food. But a good way to not make it bland is to get some bomb banana hot sauce, people, right? That's the way to do it. I want to see this. Oh, yeah, there you go. Shake them out, shake them out, shake them, all right? This company was developed this year. It's made from fresh bananas. It's made from bananas, not some banana-flavored hot sauce. Delivers exceptional and robust chili spice to any and all meals. I've used it on a lot of my Sunfair stuff, and boy, it really makes it go. There's 2 bottles, one with the white logo, a little less spicy with the red, of course, spicier. Personally, I'm more of a original guy, but you can't go wrong with either. My favorite thing is to put bomb banana on all the food from Sunfair. The website is seekthespice.com. That's seekthespice.com, all one word. And today you can receive 10% off your first order by using the promo code LEAF. That's LEAF, like on a tree, at checkout. Bomb banana hot sauce, absolutely fantastic, and beyond excited to have the opportunity to work with this new and emerging sauce.
Does it say "leaf like a tree" on the live read, or did you add that in yourself?
I always add that because people just, they'll spell it out LEIF for whatever reason. So I always tell them. It happened when I started ordering pizzas, right? When I would, I'd say "leaf on a tree," and they still don't get it. Yeah. They don't hear that part for some reason. They're like, what? Huh?
Are you Scandinavian? Okay.
Yeah, I'm a Viking. All right. I didn't have an open today because this was going to be, I knew I was going to be hungry, ravenous. But 2 months ago was when we heard the horrifying news about our brother Vincent Jackson, who passed away alone in a hotel room in Tampa Bay. And I had enough, and I'd made a video, and I was emotional, and I was probably hyperbolic, and I wasn't blaming, I was just calling to task the NFL and the NFLPA and their lack of accountability or empathy or humanity around losing a 38-year-old family man who was a great player for their organization as well as a philanthropist. And I wanted to see the response. Now, somebody from the NFLPA reached out pretty quickly, and we set up a call. I unfortunately had to postpone because I had something going on with my kids, so I asked if we could move it to Friday. I hadn't heard anything in response back from the NFLPA. So I sent a text to them yesterday on my hike that said, hey, you guys are, you continue to show us exactly who you are by how you behave, and you're frauds. Now, the NFL has never even reached out. I've worked closely with the NFL Legends program and Tracy Perlman and Troy Vincent over the last 3 years, and boy, they're showing everybody who they are. They are absolute frauds. They're a propaganda machine, period. And my response back to the NFLPA yesterday was, hey, don't placate us. We know who you are. We're going to do this on our own. And sure enough, in the world of recovery, a higher power reaches out. The NFL Hall of Fame, which is a third party, essentially, has started a program called the Hall of Fame Behavioral Health Facility, okay? And it's run by former players. It's going to be set up in Canton, Ohio for now, and hopefully other places around the country. I'm hoping I can be a part of this program to lead the way. And it's going to take us, because the NFLPA, they don't care about anything except making more money. And of course, we know what the NFL is about. They are selfish, and all they care about is the bottom line. I get it. I think that, fool you once, shame on me, fool you twice, however that goes. I'm the fool here. I kept expecting somebody who's shown us who they are for a lengthy period of time to step up and do the right thing. And all the shit they can talk, Tracy Perlman and Troy Vincent and the NFL legends and whatever you want to call it, it's a propaganda machine. It is. And they're really good at it. They're a $9 and $10 billion a year industry that is really good at making people believe that, you know, there's some wholesome empathy behind it. But we continue to lose brothers and sisters, family members of former players, everything. And this facility is going to be a third-party one that players are going to be able to be proactive around it. And just grateful for getting that phone call yesterday. What a way for it to come full circle. Of course, the NFL and the NFLPA are going to hand their hands in it because there's so much money there. And we'll use their ass just like they used ours to help every and all former players and their families who continue to struggle. So they're no longer moments and events that happen like they did 2 months ago, where we lose a brother in a hotel room all by himself because they would not act. Because it doesn't behoove them. If you're not making money for them anymore, if you're bad for the brand, and I get it, there's got to be a huge disconnect between trying to tell people that you're going to help these people when you know damn well good that the sport that you are marketing and putting forward causes brain damage. I believe I live with CTE. Luckily for me, my transgressions have caused me to take a really fine look at it, but doesn't mean I don't live with it every single day. Impulsive, anger, all the things that come with it, all the symptoms we've seen from players in that league who have died, who have taken their own life because no one was willing to look at it or admit that there was an issue. Hey, because I know this exists doesn't mean I wouldn't have played football. It may stop me from having my son play football, but it wouldn't have stopped me. Football gave me everything. And if you knew about it, then shame on you. But I also don't want anything from you. I just want you to be accountable and do the right thing. And as you continue to show that you cannot do that, we're going to do this on our own. And thankfully, the Pro Football Hall of Fame stepped up as almost Switzerland in all of this. No real attachment to the NFLPA or the NFL, but a behavioral health facility available to players only, something I was asking for when I implored the NFL and the NFLPA to act. We'll hear more about it, and we'll continue to promote it here on the show because it's going to be a big part of my life for the foreseeable future. So that'll do it. I'm going to go get anally probed. You guys do what you will. Act accordingly. We'll see you Friday, everybody. Thanks for watching the RDL show. We'll see you soon.